Thanks, Maddie. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Chanting Unitarian Universalist Church. Glad you joined us today. Whoever you are, whatever your theological, spiritual, political, sexual, and racial orientation or gender identity, you're welcome to worship here and become part of this community. Do we have any announcements this morning? Julie?
A reminder that the chocolate auction is coming up on February 12th. Anybody?
2 weeks from today.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today. So anybody who wishes to donate something to put up for auction, I think the only rules of this chocolate. Please list the ingredients and calories on it, so we can disclose that during the event. I've written out the invitations to send to the local churches, your church Bible, those are the one day today, so hopefully we have a few guests. Also wanted to say that after service today, if we can get a couple volunteers, we have a couple of the boxes of Christmas stuff that we want to get back up on the stage, up above the stage. And then we also have to move our service items out back to the hall, because in February we're going to be doing services in the Garden Hall.
In the winter quarters. So this is the winter quarters, and then there'll be the real winter quarters back there for February.
I think that's it for my notes. Oh, one more. Yesterday we did the serve safety training. So I just wanted to thank the people that came and did that. I know it was very stressful, but everybody did a great job. Now we have 4 new cooks in the kitchen. And if anybody wanted to do it and couldn't do it, either the day was not good or the cost was fair, or you're so interested, you can come talk to me and we will work it out.
Congratulations to our new Serve Safe certified people. Any other announcements? Okay, then I will welcome up to the podium our guest for today, a frequent collaborator from UU Weymouth, Reverend Barbara Dingwall Mills.
Thanks for your
Good morning. I apologize in advance. I have laryngitis. This morning was the 3rd time I tested this week for COVID. I'm still negative. Fully vaccinated, but I may not sound great this morning, and I apologize. I feel good, if that's good. We heard our announcements for this morning, and I often think of our church in Maine, that we always had a chocolate auction. I was the auctioneer, and in about 20 minutes, we made about $1,000, and that's awesome. I kidded with the congregation that I locked the doors. I wasn't kidding. So no one left until all the chocolates. So just a suggestion. Feel free to use my tactics. It may not be most Unitarian Universalist tactics, but it works. So do whatever you do. Now is the time for an ingathering prayer. And this isn't really a prayer, but I will share it with you. Each week I get in touch with our congregation in Weymouth. And yesterday I would save it because I don't know why, but I guess I'm glad that I did. On one hand, I was thinking a lot about hope this week. And I know that hope is very fleeting. I work hard to remain optimistic and try to see the glass as not just half full, but usually is almost filled right up to the brim. Usually there are a couple of nice little ice cubes floating in that water. It's always fresh, clean, pure water. But this week has been a tough week for me and probably for all of you too. The news, whether it's local, national, or global, has brought us nothing but sadness and sorrow. A young man, Tyree Nichols, was murdered in Memphis by 5 young Black police officers after having been stopped for allegedly driving recklessly. The police chief there in Memphis said that no footage shows him doing so, yet he was dragged out of his car, chased when he tried to flee in fear of his life, and accosted and brutalized until he was unconscious as other officers and paramedics stood by for at least 20 minutes and did not render any aid. In nearby Chalice, we have witnessed a husband being charged with murder after he reported his wife in Walsh missing. Her body has not yet been found. It probably won't be. Yet DNA, blood, and tools were found, and incriminating searches that were detected on one of the children's laptops, I think a 6-year-old's laptop, for how to dispose of the body and how to destroy DNA. Anna's 3 children are now motherless and are soon to be without a father, because I hope that he will be sentenced to life in prison. Just days ago in Duxbury, a distraught mother, Lindsay Clancy, killed all 3 of her children. Probably she was fighting severe maternal postpartum depression. Initially, she strangled her 2 elder children, Cora and Jocelyn, as they were dead when the police arrived. The baby, 7-month-old Kaylee Clancy, succumbed to his wounds on Friday. After committing these heinous acts, Lindsay, the mother, jumped out of the bedroom window in a suicide attempt. If she recovers, she will face charges for multiple homicide. In Ukraine, Putin continues to bombard innocent people with a deluge of destruction. Countless citizens have been maimed and killed and left homeless, starving, and cold. I found myself yesterday asking, where is the shred of hope in this? Why do such things occur? How can we make sense of anything? I wish I had the answers. I do not. I am as sad and as at sea as all. I do not know that people can cope with such loss, such devastation, such senseless violence. It is beyond my comprehension that evil such as this even exists in our world. The only salvation that I see is that love abides. I saw it yesterday during the press conference when Tyree's mother spoke of her son's attackers. She was right when she stated that they have all brought shame not only to themselves and their families, but to their police force and the Black community at large in Memphis. She was correct when she said that they had disgraced themselves. I feel sorry. I really do, she said in an interview on CNN. In Cohasset and Duxbury, neighbors, friends, co-workers, and strangers reached out to both families to offer money, food, and support. Donations were dropped off at the police and fire stations in both communities to try to mitigate the horror that those first responders witnessed. Western allies, including the United States, will soon deliver 321 tanks to Ukraine in a show of global solidarity and in an attempt to combat Putin's slaughter. I fully believe that most people are good. I see it every day, as I believe you do too. Bad things happen, as this week's events have made very clear. Sadly, I believe that they always have, and they always will. Yet good happens too. We see this day, if only we can keep our hearts and our minds open to it. Life is a journey, and not always an easy or a happy one. Dr. Anthony Fauci reminds us in his recent book that you must be prepared at any time to enter uncharted territory, to expect the unexpected, and where possible, seize the opportunities. So while we cannot control or stop bad things from happening, we can choose to respond with love and to offer our aid when it is feasible. Would you join me in this wonderful Chalice? I sure will. It's in your order, sir. Please stand as you will. In times of darkness, we stumble towards the tiny flame. In times of cold, we seek the warming fire. In times of repression, we reach for the land of truth. In times of loss, we pray for the comforting light. In times of joy, we light a candle of celebration. Spirit of life, as we kindle this light, help us find what we need this day. Would you join with me also in speaking in unison our affirmation? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with love. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Thank you. And thank you very much. I know we must speak actually. It's interesting. Our opening hymn is number 55. It's called Dark of Winter, which I guess technically will be. It's not that it's getting a little bit. Would you stand as you were really able and will accompany us? Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. I invite you now to take a moment and turn to whoever is near you. Whether it's a friend, hopefully not a soul, but a friend, a neighbor, and offer them some joyous greeting this morning. Make them feel important. Make them feel seen. Oh, I love it. That's fine. So take a moment and say, good morning. To a person, as you turn to say hello to someone, every single week. That's a nice thing. I know it's hard sometimes. And I'm sorry to start you out with a dying, but there's sometimes where things we have. So I think it would be a disservice to not talk about those things. Now is the time for lighting our candles of joy and concern. And I invite all of you to come forward, if you like, or stand where you are, and let us know what it is that hangs heavy for you this week. If it is a joy, we will celebrate with you. If it is a song or a word, we will hopefully listen to you just because we
I have a joy. Went out. Friend's birthday. Brooke. Holbrook.
Fires are good.
I like one of my husband who's doing well after back surgery.
Yeah, I have a friend whose father is getting older and deteriorating, relationships getting
I hope. I saw her. I heard this this day. So
Can we follow up for small improvements?
Joyce and concern carry with us. We may not be ready to share them today.
thank you. Thank you all for sharing. I like what you said about a little bit of hope. I think hope is often an increment. Weeks like this make it even worse. I would like us now, even though we're not being here for beautiful sanctuary, to perhaps envision, take a moment, gather your thoughts, meditate, pray, both the same to me. And take a few moments to consider not only what is wrong in this world and in our lives, but perhaps more so than ever, what is right and how we can use the goodness that we have to mitigate others' bad circumstances. I know that it works. I see it in you. I know that you do too. I see it in your faces. So let's take a few moments to just gather and breathe softly and deeply and consider our lives. Please join with us in singing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Thank you. Now is the time to share our monetary gifts with our church. I invite you to give a lot, to often, to help this church flourish. I invite you to stand as you are able. Enjoy the singing Spirit of Truth. Please be seated. In the hymn in our book, entitled In the Bleak Midwinter, following words speak to me every time at this year, every year at this time, I apologize. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moon. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow, in the bleak mid-winter long ago. Now, I should just point out, we haven't had much snow this year, but I imagine it will come. I actually am one of those people who long for a good snowstorm. As my husband reminds me, there is no such thing as a good snowstorm. He said unless it's occurring on the slopes in New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, even Grand Western Massachusetts. But he said there's no need for it to fall in my weekend. Maybe every year as fall turns cold and the frosty winds arrive, I yearn each autumn for the first flurries. I get excited about that initial real snowfall. How I can feel the electricity in the air whenever inclement weather is predicted. Bring it on, I think. This year I was still waiting that first big snowfall. But most winters at about this time, even I have to admit that I'm sick. Even if the snowstorm starts out fluffy and light, by the time I get out to shovel and under the end of our driveway, the snow has usually turned to either watery slush or frozen concrete, or sometimes a combination thereof. It is heavy and tough to move. Granted, my husband has used the snowblower by then on everything, but I always offer, I don't know, to shovel the end of our driveway. There it flies, a blending mass of heavy, wet snow. Soon enough, I realize that I am ready for no more snow and preparing mentally and emotionally for an upcoming vacation that will occur at least in my mind. This year, that's the case, in some sunny and warm climate. When I come back into my house after completing my task, I shed my shovel gear, my boots, my toasty hat, and my insulated clothes. I don a soft flannel red plaid shirt that I've left by the fire, smart one, and fresh jeans, and I've often returned to writing a sermon. I feel like I've accomplished something when I do a physical task, and that I'm ready to do mental work again. Whenever I write a sermon, it always starts with a kernel of an idea. Often weeks or even months prior to when I actually sit down and compose it. Actually, I should revise that. I begin writing it in dribs and drabs long before I put pen to paper, or more correctly nowadays, fingers to keys on my laptop. I write much of each sermon in my head, many times over before I actually have something to print. But by early afternoon of a week ago, I was definitely feeling the pressure to finish what until that time had only been a concept. Some sermons congeal more easily than others. This one was tough. I had the name of the sermon running around in my brain for more than 2 years. In late fall of 2019, I found myself thinking about what made me happy. I thought of my family, my friends, my church, and of course, my 2 beautiful grandchildren. And then I began to think how lucky I was to have all of them in my life. More explicitly, I started to wonder what my life would be like without any or all of them. Happiness seems so elusive. Like all of us, I get at times when happiness slides right past me, slippery, almost evil, when finding something to smile about is impossible. Sorrow and pain visit us all at some point in our lives, often at multiple times. What we hope is that it is not long with us, and that we can return to our more joyful selves. This last thought got me thinking about joy which to me is several steps up from happiness, much harder to grasp, and definitely swifter to depart. Now, joy is defined in Webster's New Explorer Dictionary of Thesaurus, which is immense, as a feeling of happiness that comes from success, good fortune, or a sense of well-being. Synonyms are listed as bliss, delight, enjoyment, and pleasure. To be joyful or joyous is defined as experiencing, causing, or showing joy. Under the thesaurus section of the term, I found joy to mean ecstasy and rapture. In contrast, antonyms given for joy are sorrow and misery. For joyous, lugubrious, and wretched. Now, according to John Piper, founder of www.desiringgod.org, a Christian website, joy is a feeling and not an idea. The difference being that we don't have immediate control over our feelings or emotions. Now, for example, say we are camping for the weekend in a remote area. We wake up and there is a silhouette of a bear outside our tent. A grizzly. Bear. He seems hungry. Now we don't say, now let me think about this situation. There's a bear. Bears are big. Bears are dangerous. Conclusion, I should feel fear here. So I will decide to be afraid. Emotions do not work like that. Thinking works like that, but not feeling. When a bear is outside of our tent, we do not analyze. We just feel scared. So yes, I would agree that joy like fear is a feeling and not a concept. If this is so, that joy is a feeling and feeling is something that we humans experience, over which we have little or no control, then joy must be something that just randomly occurs. Again, while this may be true, that does not preclude us from setting ourselves up for finding joy and feeling joyful. Just as we do not find ourselves suddenly a teacher or a baker or a judge or a parent, neither does joy simply happen. To become a teacher, a baker, a joy, or a parent, we prepare, we study, we watch, we practice. To be a baker, we might decide to enroll in culinary school. To be a teacher, we would take courses in educational studies and hone our skills in the explicit areas in which we hope to impart knowledge. Succeeding in anything takes purpose, steps, and preparation. Finding joy is like that also. In Galatians 5:22-23, it is said that the joy in my soul overflowing to its God is coming from the work of the Holy Spirit. Now, in Unitarian Universalist lingo, this translates to the joy in our souls goes out to our Holy Spirit in the world and is returned to us from that same Spirit manifested by our fellow travelers in this world. That Spirit is love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Joy. So how do we prepare ourselves to receive joy? What do we do to ready ourselves to find it? Well, first of all, we must believe that all of us, you, me, all of us, have a right to even expect joy in our lives. While that may sound like an easy concept to believe, I can assure you that it is not. Look around. Every day we are bombarded with images and diatribes that question our worth and credibility. We're too old, too fat, too ridiculed, we're too young, too inexperienced, too sick, too stupid, too mean, too uninformed, to want good things happening to us. Remember the old adage pertaining to selling newspapers. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. Every night, when I watch the 6 o'clock local news, and then if I can stand it, the national news, I do so with trepidation. What will lead tonight? Mayhem, destruction, war, famine, blizzards, tornadoes, car accidents, murder, child abuse, shootings, betrayal, corruption, conspiracy. For the past 3 years, COVID has dominated the news almost daily, with reports of deaths, illnesses, masks, restrictions, and alas, vaccines. Hospitals have been overwhelmed, medical personnel unable to cope anymore. Teachers were mandated to teach by Zoom. Kids were relegated to virtual playdates. I imagine that you truly can identify with that. It's hard enough to have a play date with kids actually. If you've ever tried to have kids play over Zoom, it's almost impossible. In the last year, Putin has decimated Ukraine, showing the world that lunacy and despotism still exist, and that sovereign nations can indeed be invaded and almost overtaken. So where and how in this world could we ever come to hold a belief that joy in any form could be our right? Because we established earlier that joy is a feeling and not an idea, we may find our answer in that fact. While we have acknowledged that it is part of the human experience to feel sorrow and shame and malaise, why would we not be deserving of experiencing happiness and contentment and fulfillment, and yes, dare I say, joy? Why would we not expect to feel wonder and to find peace? Shouldn't the scale tip both ways? Often I have heard these words, and I hate them. You know the ones I mean. Life sucks and then you die. While I understand and appreciate that life can be hard, harder than we deserve, and much harder than we think we can take, the opposite can also be true. We have no control of where or when or even if we are born. But we do have some say about where our lives go from here. Rich or poor, genius or average, tall or short, thick or thin. Once we arrive on this earth, we do have many opportunities to affect our outcomes. It is in our hands to do what we can to not allow our lives to, for lack of a better word, suffer. While die we must, our experiences while alive need to be worth our time and effort. I am no Pollyanna. I fully accept that life can be awful. For some, it may even be awful from beginning to end, which is in and of itself a pure tragedy. If we are fortunate and blessed enough to not be in that path, I believe that it is our obligation to not waste what we have been given. I further believe that it is our duty to strive to find joy during our lives. In Paul's letter to the Philippians, he stated that basically joy is a good feeling in the soul, brought forth by the grace of God, allowing us to experience beauty and love in this world. 2 Sundays ago, my brother-in-law Scott was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and subsequently died less than 8 weeks later. I worried for my sister and her family. Less than 1 week after Scott died, and a week before we held a service for him, my nephew, Scott's son, was to be married. No one was in the mood to celebrate, but celebrate we did. We all felt that we owed it to my brother-in-law to do so. He could not be with us in body, but I felt his presence at that wedding. My sister made a conscious choice, as did we all, to allow joy and love to govern us, and to make that choice on purpose, secure in our belief that we deserve to experience both. When asked how she was managing to get through her experience, her response was this: life is for the living, and I owe it to my husband, who could not be here to enjoy this day. It would be wrong of me to give up and not expect to ever be happy. When my husband and I went to the Florida Keys last year, we stayed with my sister, now living. Another sister and brother-in-law flew down with us, and together we basked in the sun, consumed probably 4 pina coladas and sugar, and we relaxed. I was looking forward to this vacation perhaps more than any others. As the last time I'd been in Florida Key was with my sister and her husband 2 years prior. Throughout much of his life, my brother-in-law Scott was an unhappy and unfulfilled man. He was not easy to be, and I assume it was not easy to be. I know that my sister worked hard to remain in a difficult marriage. Over time, and I think perhaps because of her living in spite of many illnesses, Scott mellowed and eventually came to appreciate my sister and all that she had done and did do for him. He became easier to be around and a kinder and gentler man. His relationship with his children softened as he aged, which brought him a sense of happiness. He achieved success in his business and valued his employees' friends. And when he was done, he finally could express gratitude for what he had become and for what he had been given. I think that despite his terminal situation, he was finally able to experience some joy. Joy is not available to just a select few. It is there for all of us to find. Because we are alive, we all deserve to have the opportunity to experience it. And not just once, but multiple times in our lives. It is not feeling that only the rich or the famous or the beautiful deserve to have. It is there for everyone. Where can joy be found? It can be found in helping others. It can be found in unapologetically asking for help when we need it. It can be found in listening when others seek our assistance. It can be found in the darkest of times and in the brightest. We owe it to ourselves to enjoy our time here on earth and to help others to do so also. The Dalai Lama said that joy is the reward, really, of giving joy to others. When you show compassion, when you show care, when you show love to others, do things for others in a wonderful way, you have a deep joy that you can get in no other way. I believe that God, in whatever form you imagine that being to be, wants us to be happy. That is not to say that life should be easy or without heartache, for to be idle would mean to have not lived fully. When we are, as the last verse of the hymn of the bleak midwinter says, in the bleak midwinter, in this world of pain, where our hearts are open and love is born again. It is how we live, how we impact the lives of others, how we seek to be better and more loving, that gives us the opportunity to find joy. The first step is to expect that life, maybe even around the next corner. The second is to embrace it and feel deserving of it when it plucks itself in our path. Our closing this morning is one of my favorites. Comes in this song, number 346. Please sing as you are. As we extinguish our chalice, please join me in speaking these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are all together again. I hope that your week is a good one, a fruitful one, a peaceful one, and just a joyful one.